Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Noselesi Tole, alongside Nomakabiso Nkampule. First up, let's have a look at our top stories. His Majesty King Mswati III says, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a few members of the Imbali regiment will represent the regiment in this year's Reed Dance. Government will hire and promote 522 security services officers in the current financial year. The House of Assembly was divided about adopting a report on grievances brought to the House by the Eswatini Contractors Association about its fallout with the Construction Industry Council. And now our bulletin in detail. His Majesty King Mswati III says, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a few members of the Imbali regiment will represent the regiment in this year's Reed Dance. This was revealed by Imbali leader Nonduduzo Zubugo when making an announcement at Eswatini residence, where the Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, also added that chiefs and regional administrators will work together in selecting the Imbali.
The Minister of Public Services, Mabulala Masego, says government by promotions.
Lalela Mbali. Utsokandaba. Kulandzela simemetelo lesiphumile sekuthi kutawubukakala tindlela tekuthi umhlanga ufika njani esigodlweni. Uthi angibikele umhlaba ukuthi kutawugcinwa lisiko, kutaba khona tintfombi letincane letawugcina lisiko. Mhla titimbili kuyo inyoni tiyawufika tibhalise ngalelo langa. Mhla titintsatfu kuyo inyoni tiyawuphuma tigece tibuye ngalelo langa. Mhla titine enyonini tiyachitha. Mhla tisihlanu kuyo inyoni tiyagitsa. Mhla tisithupha enyonini tibamba tinkunzi. Usho njalo ke Mswati omnyama kulaba luthulo odunganda basembelebeleni. Sisho njalo ke siguduza simnyama siyesabeka. Usho njalo ke londlo olukhulu liyadikise la. Bethe wena waphakathi, wena ungangezintaba. Lokhipa simemetelo indvuna yetintfombi. Nonduduzo, Zuzu, Zubuko.
Nine bekunene. Sekubonakele ukuthi isifo seCovid siyachubeka iminyaka ngeminyaka asathi ukuthi sitawuphela nini. Ingwenyama yeMaswati seyibonile ukuthi lapha na kungamiwa kutawugcina vele sekulahlekile lelisiko. Kungakho ke seyithithe akube khona lidlanzana letintfombi letawuphuma lente lomsebenzi. Baka healthy ke bekunene betempilo batabe bakhona kusuka letintfombi nathi suka le emakhaya dize tofika lapha ekhaya elidzidini esigodlweni. Batabe bakhona betempilo bahamba nabo kuba kuqiniseka ukuthi baphephile kuleli gciwane babe bapopolwa bekunene. Lendlazana ke bo RA nabo babetikhulu batawubonisana ukuthi balikhetha njani lidlazana lelitakuta la kangwane bengene kutakwenda lo msebenzi. Sithumisa emakhosini ukuthi abone ukuthi kubalekile ukuthi ligcinwe lelisiko leMaswati lingasilahlekeli. Bayethe
Government will hire and promote 522 security services officers in the current financial year. This was said by the Minister of Public Services, Mabulala Masego, when giving clarity regarding promotions and recruitment within the security forces.
The Minister of Public Services, Mabulala Masego, says government by promotions and recruitment within the security forces is not trying to turn the country into a military state. The Minister says 322 officers will be promoted in all three security forces, while only 200 will be recruited to join the Eswatini Royal Police Service. There are 2,161 vacancies in all forces.
Security forces had never been given any waiver to fill vacant posts. Yet, many positions have fallen vacant due to retirement, resignations, and deaths over the years. As a result, promotions and recruitments within the security forces were last carried out in the year 2017. Instead, government has over the years issued waivers and prioritized the employment of teachers, to ensure that students' learning continued without any interruption, and has also employed and promoted health personnel in order to meet the demands imposed by the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is also important for the nation to note that the waiver which has been issued by Cabinet for promotions of security forces and recruitment of police officers is meant only for filling a fraction of the vacant positions.
The minister says the non-issuing of waivers for promotions and recruitment for security forces since 2017 until this year is indicative of the fact that government has not prioritized security forces over other public services. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Mbonga Dube Mbabane.
The House of Assembly was divided about adopting a report on grievances brought to the House by the Eswatini Contractors Association about its fallout with the Construction Industry Council. Some members are for the idea of having the CIC Act amended and having a forensic audit of CIC, while others were for the idea of passing regulations and giving the CIC Act a chance to operate.
The motion to have the House of Assembly adopt the report on the Construction Industry Council has been moved by Lubombo, Member of Parliament, Lorraine Malo, and seconded by Mangongo MP Wanboisigalala. Members say the report was a result of a petition tabled by the Eswatini Contractors Association, which had a list of grievances.
Regulations they were never consulted draftiwa, and over the years solo washaya lo mthetho bayazama ukukhulumisana na regulator long CIC ukuthi abalungisa lama regulations basho tikhalotaba.
The House then debated the report.
The CIC bengasa comply nalama lo mthetho ukuthi asubmit lama reports regularly. Koqala lomunye lo shows up ayiphume vele le forensic ihambe sekuyobuka kahle kungabe lokumisa lama regulations kodwa sekwenda ukuthi kusebenzeke ngcono njani. Asekamane ayithole ithuba lama regulations, Mr. Speaker. Lo mthetho uma ngatoti mbili singawujaji uma ngenyawo lunye bese sithi uyacela kule report. It is notable ukuthi kunama contentious clauses kulo mthetho. Kepha ke lama contentious clauses do not affect the entire legislative text ngicela inkulumo. Kusingamiswa ema regulations. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the report has failed to demonstrate ukuthi lama contentious clauses, how do they relate to the regulations?
I think ukshit umhlonishwa sentonjeni nangiva allegations verified la against ECA kule motivation, but allegations against CIC, the movers didn't bother to verify them before the House.
At the time of compiling this report, the House was still in session. For Eswatini TV News, Tengos Mavimbela with Muzim Konda, Parliament.
The High Court has dismissed Ndunja Community Primary School's application to have Standard 5 results released by the Examinations Council of Eswatini's registrar. The school wanted the court to compel the registrar to release the results. The court held the view that any court order issued against the registrar cannot be enforceable against the Keswa because it was not cited and joined in the proceedings.
Kantunja Community Primary School sued the registrar of the Examinations Council of Eswatini. The school prayed to the court that it wanted the registrar to release grade 7 results for the 2020 academic year. The results have been withheld because the school is alleged to have engaged in malpractice, and the council is still investigating, thus not releasing the results. The court says it has listened to both counsel and concluded that the matter begins and ends with determining points of law raised by the registrar. The court says it agrees that any order that the court may issue against the registrar cannot be enforceable against the Ikeswa because it was not cited and joined in these proceedings. The court says the defense submitted that it is only the Ikeswa that is vested with statutory powers to regulate the school examinations in the country. The court has stated that it is common cause that the regulations governing malpractice at examination centers are implemented by Ikeswa and not the registrar. It also stated that the registrar's duty is to ensure that the regulations are enforced on behalf of the Ikeswa and not on his behalf. The court says it is Ikeswa and not the registrar that enforces the regulations. It adds that nowhere in the regulations is the registrar individually mentioned in the execution and enforcement of the regulations. The court then dismissed the school's application with cause. The matter was before Judge Nkosinathi Masego, and the defense was represented by Mduduzi Mabila, while standing in for the applicant was SK Dlamini. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, High Court.
176 trainee electricians will undergo trade testing for grade 3 before the end of the year as part of the Taiwan Funds program. The Industrial and Vocational Training Director, Simelane, says this week alone, 96 trainee electricians will be trade tested.
There are more than 500 students electricians which await to be trade tested for grade 3, registered with the Directorate of Industrial and Vocational Training in the country. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security, together with Taiwan and the Directorate of Industrial and Vocational Training, have kickstarted trade testing for such students.
We do it for candidates who have completed colleges, candidates who have trained at home, those who are trained helping their uncles and fathers at home. If they've acquired the skills, they come here, we test them, and we give them the certificates. And those who learn the skills in companies. Grade 3 has become a big project for us. Everyone who is wiring a house or doing business in industrial wiring should have at least electrical grade 3.
Project manager Baron Wang from Taiwan Embassy, which funded the trade testing, encourages Amaswat to take vocational training courses.
Together with the government of Eswatini, we also identified that electrical field and automotive repairing and mechanical. The last one will be the hospitality and the tourism. These 4 fields should be focused first. So the project will focusing on these 4 areas.
One of the student electricians, Nontobe Gomhlanga, who have been awaiting to trade test since 2014, says she is delighted that she is finally trade testing. She says this will open doors for her.
Ngiyabonga lokuthi lamuhla ngilitholele lithuba ukuthi bengingakhona ukuthi nami ngitoveta akame makhono ukuthi ngagesi kukhona lengingakwenta.
Vusimgomezulu, who is one of the panelists, says it is important for students electricians to undergo trade testing so they could obtain certificates which enable them to start businesses or get employment. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Babane.
Over 300 people have been attended to at the recently opened ex-miners service centers based in Manzini and Hlatikulu in the last 2 months. This has been revealed by the occupational health practitioner Terry Twala when explaining how the clinics operate. Twala was speaking at Raleigh 15 Memorial Hospital, where one of the clinics is based.
In May this year, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security promised that 2 clinics for ex-miners will be opened in Hlatikulu and Manzini. The clinics started operations in June this year. Diri Twala, an occupational health practitioner at the clinic, explains how it operates.
Part of a complication that most ex-miners will experience is what we call silicosis, which is a chronic lung disease following exposure or chronic exposure to the minerals, be it gold, platinum, coal, whatever mineral that they could have been mining. So we also are aware that most of our ex-miners, because of the repeated exposure, are more prone to having TB, so their risk of having TB is actually higher than just the general population. We do have what we call a BME, which is a benefit medical examination, whereby all ex-miners are encouraged to have a full examination every 2 years. We then fill up compensation forms, where we then send to South Africa for them to be compensated. So on top of that, we do offer HIV services, we do offer primary health care, we do offer community outreach programs where we go out to the general population, where we educate them. For example, some miners, ex-miners have already deceased, and the widows are there. Probably the family members are not even aware that they do have they are due to a compensation that they can get. We have seen 155 in July and 151 in July and 155 in August, combined numbers in both facilities, which includes the ex-miners, current miners and their family members.
The ministry says over 7,000 ex-miners and their immediate families will receive care at the clinics. The ministry further says a committee has been established locally to help Eswatini benefit from the ex-miners compensation fund in the Republic of South Africa. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla with Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Manzini.
The Matapa Municipal Council has embarked on a consultative exercise which entails engaging members of the public on 3 new bylaws that will be introduced to enhance the municipality's legal framework in relation to certain aspects of development.
The 3 new bylaws that have been formulated by the Municipal Council of Matapa will have to undergo a number of formalities and scrutiny before being formally adopted into fully fledged statutes. For now, the 3 new bylaws are being discussed in detail by the municipality and affected parties through a comprehensive stakeholder engagement process. The municipality's public relations officer, Sihle Sihlonganyane, explains.
One of the bylaws is Matapa Gated Community Bylaw. The second one is the street parking bylaw, and then there is an informal and formal trading bylaw. What happens in a gated community specifically, there's nothing much that happens in a gated community, but however, the security issues are upgraded, whereby I would say the property owners of that particular area can then form associations, or an association that seeks to monitor the security of that particular boundary.
After the stakeholder consultation exercise is concluded, the bylaws will have to be taken through certain structures such as the Attorney General's Office, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Cabinet, and finally Parliament for final endorsement. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Matapa.
The Eswatini Environmental Authority has initiated a social media campaign that seeks to find solutions to waste management. EEA's Environmental Information Officer Belusile Mhlanga says they have noted that careless waste disposal is rife around markets and bus stations. Mhlanga says their campaign seeks to find a solution that will not affect small businesses while at the same time address the issue of reckless waste disposal.
Before COVID-19, the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini launched a cleanup campaign that sought to deal with reckless waste disposal. So big was the campaign that it saw ministers leaving their offices and work to clean up waste with ordinary citizens. COVID-19 saw the halting of this initiative, which some people appreciated. To pick up where this government initiative left off, the EEA has seen it proper to find a new solution to environmental challenges. EEA Environmental Information Officer Belusile Mhlanga says they have noted that there is poor waste management in busy areas which include markets and bus stations.
Nesegcwele tibi kungakho ke space sesibonele ukuthi asicele sive ukuthi sesisibonise ukuthi sona kulokwendekako ingabe sibona ukuthi kungaba yini isolution ngoba phela konke sesikuzamile kuhlanda kepha letinzawo leti silo tiyachubeka tiyangcola. Le umkhankaso wethu siwende kulamakhasi lawa etekuchumana ku Facebook. Singacela nje ukuthi abantu balivakashele ikhasi lethu Eswatini Environment Authority bafike bafake khona ke lapho imuvo yabo. Labanye mhlawumbe labangeva ukuthi bona abakhoni kufinyelela lapho bangasenda futhi nemilayeto kulelinye ikhasi lekuchumana lelingu WhatsApp kunemboleni lengu 7806 0233 lapho khona bangasho nabo ukuthi yini lababona ukuthi ingentiwe.
Mhlanga says the solutions should not negatively affect small businesses, but at the same time sustain the environment. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela with Fortune Dlangamandla, Manzini.
Manzini residents urge people who have not yet taken the vaccine for COVID-19 to heed government's call and get vaccinated in order to decrease their chances of getting too sick from the virus. The residents were speaking at Manzini bus rank soon after taking the vaccine.
The Ministry of Health continues to vaccinate Eswatini against COVID-19 around the country. Residents of Manzini who have already vaccinated have urged Eswatini to do the same. They say it is only the vaccine that can help in ensuring that someone does not get too sick from the virus even if they catch it. They continue to say they have witnessed elderly family members recovering from the pandemic because they have been vaccinated.
Sengujovele lomkhuhlane ngokuqiniso vele nami sengithethe umjovo ngidiva ngiright and nasemoyeni lokuthi ke ngisengenkonzo sengendile ngoba nabe shothi live limemeda thathethe ukuthi akuthathwe imjovo kuvikelwe buko ukuthi nami kuyinto lehle leyo for ukuvikela ikakhulu nalabancane lababukethi abantu abasukume bede bate uthatha lemjovo ngoba lo kuhamba komuntu emhlabeni sekuncipha live
nje ekhaya sike saba nekugula kwe-COVID bamfla abadzala ebekuthiwa labamfla abadzala abakase bajova ngabe kuthiwa sebafile yabo ngalokuthi lo mjovo bajova labamfla abadzala lo mjovo wakhona ukuthi bakhone ukufighter
thatwe ukuthi ngibone lokuthi betempilo basukumile batama kuthatha inyathelo letenta ukuthi thina sibone ukuthi kubalekile kuphila sisakufuna ke kuphila ngikolo kwenta ukuthi sisukume.
A statement by the Ministry of Health on Sunday stated that 154,160 people had been fully vaccinated, which amounts to 13.2% of the country's total population of over 1 million people. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla with Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Manzini.
And now we'll have a look at our financial markets.
Mpimpi.
Good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. Manzini Wanderers ladies team has been knocked out of the COSAFA Championships after being beaten by Mamelodi Sundowns ladies by 6-1. The game was played at the Eswatini Stadium in Durban, South Africa.
Manzini Wanderers ladies team went to the last game of the group stages in the COSAFA Women's Championship that serves as qualifiers for the CAF Total Energies Championships League, knowing that anything less than a win will see them crashing out of the tournament. The ladies faced an unforgiving Mamelodi Sundowns who have won their opening 2 matches by 6 goals each. They indeed continued with their high-scoring form as they managed to score 3 goals in the first half. Second half, Sundowns managed to score another 3 and Manzini Wanderers was able to pull one back as the score finished by Sundowns winning 6-1. Manzini Wanderers assistant coach Percy Shonga says it was a tough game indeed.
Game very tough vele yona and vele babe ngendlela siba expecting ngayo basinika vele le pressure lesikathile sazama ukuthi sime emuva kakhulu sendele ukuthi bangaspenetrate kamelula minimize lamagoli.
Sundowns will now be joined by Double Action to the semi-finals of the tournament after Double Action was able to defeat Defence Force by 5-0. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizum Msibi with Linda Dlamini and pictures are sourced from COSAFA TV.
Local under-18 athletes who have qualified for the Region 5 Games say they are very much aware that they will now have to train even harder if they are to come back with medals in the Games. The athletes were speaking during the qualifiers at the Mavuso Sports Centre in Manzini.
Local under-18 athletes this past weekend sorted out for a spot in the Region 5 squad that was selected to represent the country in Maseru, Lesotho in December. There are only 10 slots available, and some of those athletes who managed to secure their spot says they're fully aware that now the real job of training has to start if they are to win any medals in this game, as they are far behind currently.
Bengifisa nekumisa netikhathi letika hayi njengana namuhla ngifisa kumisa letingcono kakhulu ngibuye ne world record ngiloko lebengofisile
thambe kahle and ngifuna kupusha more than this time like ngizama masela ami ngabe sengibashapo
zama kujima kakhulu lwana nanyalo ngikhona ukubamba isikhathi lesihlukile kunalesi things sibambile angibathi nganyusa kulesikhathi ngisende namhla.
The association says they noticed that the levels at which the athletes are at is not yet impressive, so they will need to put more hours in training because they will be happy if they can be able to come back with medals in these games. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizum Msibi with Linda Dlamini, Manzini.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at our top stories. His Majesty King Mswati III says, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a few members of the Imbali regiment will represent the regiment in this year's Reed Dance. Government will hire and promote 522 security services officers in the current financial year. The House of Assembly was divided about adopting a report on grievances brought to the House by the Eswatini Contractors Association about its fallout with the Construction Industry Council. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from myself and the team at Eswatini TV. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.